first off, I really appreciate your time, and I'll be brief. I think the most important thing somebody can give is your time, because that's something you're never going to get back. And so I appreciate you guys taking some time to listen to me. I think Mark said it best when he said you don't have to be intelligent to do great things, because I'm living proof. You pull my records from Cesar, you can pull them from Rend Lake College, you can pull them from SIU, because I sure wasn't the best student. I regret that, but mistakes happen, you move on, kind of like the microphone. I know mistakes are going to happen today, and you just kind of move on with it and just take it for what it's worth. I'm going to show a few slides, hopefully keep your interest. Finally voted. Oh. Great photo. Well, as Lisa mentioned, I had a passion for music. I love music. I still do today. I love listening to it. I play it occasionally, but nothing special. Like I said, I went to Cesar Blair High School. My parents were wonderful. Encouraged me to be the best that I could be. It didn't matter what I did, just have a passion for it and give it my best. There's another shot. That's my brother and I. He's 4 years older, and we're completely different. He has characteristics I wish I had. There's the Cesar Blair prom. Like I said, it's an interesting tuxedo. Well, Mark touched on it. About, I guess it was 9 years ago, I was in a sales job, and I was spinning my wheels. I wasn't doing anything to better myself, and the people I was running around with, we were all in the same boat. We weren't very successful. We went through the motions, and I had to go to a sales conference in Dallas, Texas. I did everything I could think of to get out of that sales conference. I didn't want to be there. I didn't want to be working for the company, but I didn't have another plan. And so at dinner one night, they brought out a guest speaker. I heard of Lou Holtz, but I didn't know that much about him. I knew he coached Notre Dame. I knew he was a success. But he started talking that night in front of a group. There were probably a few hundred of us. And I listened to every word this man said. First thing, when he took the podium, he speaks with a lisp. That's something he has to work hard to overcome, and he's still a little hard to understand at times. Second thing, like me, he said he's not intelligent. We're different. I'm not wealthy. I think Coach Holtz has probably done well for himself. But his message was probably the most important thing that I've heard in my life. On the way home, I made a list of goals. During Holtz's speech, he mentioned that he'd made 108 things that he wanted to do, which sounds interesting. This man was without a job, didn't have any prospects. His wife bought him a book. He read the book and was all excited about it. Before she got home, he had read it, listed out 108 things that he was going to do in his lifetime. Things like have dinner at the White House, be on this night show, win a bowl game. Let's see, he also wanted to coach Notre Dame. Well, Coach Holtz has done 106 out of 108 things on that list. And to hear him speak, it was just life-changing. So on the flight home, I made my list. I always wanted to thank Coach Holtz in person. And on my list, as Lisa mentioned, I wanted to run with the Bulls in Spain. I wanted to go to Africa and climb Kilimanjaro. I wanted to make it to the base camp of Mount Everest. I wanted to run marathons, but that's just not one. I wanted to run 40 by the time I turned 40. And it's the most amazing thing when you surround yourself with the right people. You start surrounding yourself with the right people, you encourage each other, you challenge each other. You are going to come across negativity. Every day someone is going to tell you you can't do something. Somebody told me I couldn't run my first marathon, and once I did it, I kind of challenged myself to run 15 in a year. I don't recommend doing it, but just anything's possible. That was actually on the way to the base camp of Everest. It took us a month. We slept in a tent. Everybody ended up getting sick on the trip because they said at this altitude, it's not a question of if you get sick, it's when you get sick. But that's part of the sacrifice. Some of the bridges we had to cross, we had yaks that carried our gear. So when one person's on the bridge, it's great. Get 2 yaks and about 5 people, and that bridge starts swinging. And those, the cloth that you see on the bridge is what they call prayer flags, and they put them at all dangerous spots. I didn't find out about that until later, which I'm glad, because I've been sweating bullets. Just the different things that you see along the way has really changed my life. And Mark mentioned it. You know, I'm not rich, and I probably never will be, but I don't need to be. I surround myself. I've got the best family. I've got the best friends. And that's what it's about. It's about what you can do to give back, what you can do to help somebody else. And it's not so much of, you know, what you own, because you're not taking it with you. There's a sign, like we needed a sign to find the base camp of Everest. It was at that altitude, I think we were at 17,000 feet. We went through different monasteries, and my guide was a Buddhist monk for 10 years, and one thing that I thought was important, I want to talk about the hike the next day and how hard it was going to be and how many miles we're going to have to do, and he said, Todd, don't talk about that. Our cooks worked hard for dinner. Let's stay in the moment. You know, tomorrow's going to be another day. Let's stay focused. It's what we're trying to do. We're going to have a good dinner, and then tomorrow we'll worry about the climb. That's part of Mount Everest. Like I said, it was overwhelming to see it. My goal one day is to climb it. I said I've been to the base camp, but that's not where I want to stop. Different people that you meet along the way. I ran with the bulls in Spain, and I saw Dennis Rodman. I didn't get a chance to talk to him. The crowd is huge. I ended up bumping into him at an airport a couple years later, and literally bumping into him. And first thing that came to my mind wasn't, can I have your autograph? It was, tell me about the running of the bulls. And so we sat down and talked about it, shared our experiences, and you know, I appreciated him giving me his advice and you know, his tips. Different mountains I wanted to climb. Mount Whitney, Mount Shasta. We had an experience what we call a whiteout, and that was basically you couldn't tell what was up, what was down, where your hands were. I mean, it was miserable. But you have faith in your guide, and you keep making a plan. We'd check every few hours to see if there was avalanche conditions, and we just took it a step forward at a time. I'll go through some of these pretty quickly. That was out in Northern California. That was during the whiteout. And if I'm smiling at any of these, it's just because I was miserable. That was the only thing. Somebody had told me a long time ago, we were taking boxing lessons, and he said, you know what? Never look exhausted, because people pick up on that, and they'll try to bring you down. And so in any photo, I don't care if it's a mountain climb, a marathon, I'm going to be smiling, no matter how rough I feel on the inside. And right here, that was probably one of the roughest. It's funny because I've made so many mistakes, it's not even funny. And I'll make more to come, I know that, but it's all right. Everybody's going to make mistakes, and I think right there is living proof. I ran that marathon feeling great, and I crossed the finish line, and my marathon time was off. Not that I'm going to set any records to begin with, but I looked at my watch and like, why is my marathon time this far off? It's simple. That course was measured 27.2 miles. Marathon's 26.2. It was the race director. He made a mistake. But you move on. You know, it was a great day. We all finished. You know, so what? You know, the guy made a mistake. Pretty big one, but you know. Different sites, different people that I've met. I've met so many great people, not just in foreign countries, but every day. I try to seek out a mentor. I've got one in St. Louis, and I always say he's doing me a favor. His name's Tony. He works for Smith Barney. He'll have more money than I'll ever see, but I get to experience other things that he doesn't get to see, so it's a good fit, and I go to him for advice. I seek his guidance. I ask him what he's read lately. We share books. Mistakes, and I don't want to focus just on Everest or Nepal, but one thing I wasn't prepared for is there's helicopters that they can't bring down because they've crashed. They're left up there, and so it's a constant reminder how vulnerable you are. Another one of my goals, I wanted to hike the Inca Trail in Machu Picchu, and it was the most amazing sight that I think I've seen. This was built by hand hundreds of years ago. It took 80 years to build, and then for some reason, they really don't know why, they just up and left it. And it was virtually untouched when they found it. That's some of the animals that ended up carrying our gear. That's the running of the bulls. I'm the knucklehead in the black shirt with the newspaper. And people say, why do you carry a newspaper? They say, is that, so you can hit the bull? The bulls are considered sacred, and I try to follow the tradition. It dates back hundreds of years. The Spanish people look at it more of like a religious event than the running of the bulls. You carry that newspaper because it's a show of confidence. It's saying, I'm going to run with the bulls, I'm going to grab a cup of coffee, and I'm going to read my newspaper. But it's showing that you intend nothing's going to happen. And unfortunately, what you do see every year are people that show up with no respect for the tradition, no respect for the Spanish people, and basically show up belligerents and just trying to make it their 5 minutes of fame, and they miss out on such a great experience. I have my list of goals. Like I said, some of them, they're simple. And I had to write a poem. I wanted to take a Spanish class. I wanted to take a drum class. And this is stuff after I graduated. One guy that I also was inspired by is Mark Cuban. This gentleman owns the Dallas Mavericks. He's a billionaire, and he has worked so hard to get there. His parents didn't come for money. It's his attitude. He works diligently every day, and it was my goal to shake his hand. I sent him an email with my list of goals. I said, Mark, I want to run this marathon, climb this mountain. I want to go here, here. The last thing on my list that year was to shake his hand. And I was diligent. Every time I ran a marathon, I'd cross off a list, send it to him. Finally, I said, Mr. Cuban, I've got 3 months left. I've got a marathon and a mountain climb, and shake your hand. I can control 2 out of the 3, but I really want to shake your hand. Shot me an email that night and said, if you can be in Indianapolis tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock, we can do this. Called my boss at work, said, I'm going to leave at 2 in the morning. I'll drive straight through. I'll meet this gentleman for 15 minutes. I'll be back at work for the afternoon. And to go up there with an email in my hand saying, can you be here at 8 o'clock? And this guy that's a billionaire meeting with pretty much Joe Ordinary is just living proof that your dreams can come true. Everybody's caught up in American Idol, and I think it's great entertainment. But one thing I always say, don't live somebody else's dream. I mean, the most important reality show is your own. Don't sit there and watch other people live their lives. Like I said, I'm not well educated. I read more now than I ever did when I was younger. I think it was Michelangelo said it when he was 87. He said, "Ancora impara," and that means I'm still learning. And every day, I try to learn something new. But there's a big difference with people that wish for something to happen and dream about how they can make it happen. And every night I sit there and dream how I'm going to climb Everest. How am I going to get there? I don't wish for it to happen because that's just a shot in the dark. You make a plan, you talk to people, you educate yourself, you train. It's funny, I went over to Malaysia, and this gentleman actually went to SIU Carbondale, shot him an email and said, hey, I'm going to be in Thailand. He takes off 7 days of work so he can show me around Malaysia. So the friends that you meet, especially now, are going to be lifelong friends. I mean, they're going to be there. I mean, your college friends, your high school friends, these are where the bonds are formed. I like chimpanzees. Monkeys crack me up for some reason. Well, these guys that lived in Malaysia found that out. It took me to a park we bought a bag of peanuts. We're tossing these they're tossing these peanuts out. And this Malaysian guy, he's afraid of monkeys. I mean, he's terrified. So he kept saying, Todd, they're getting closer. And I took a couple peanuts, threw them in front of him, and kind of went down, grabbed his leg, and I've never seen a man jump that high in my life, especially this man. I think that he probably hit, that's him on the far right, I think he probably could have dunked a basketball that day. You know, and one thing I always remember, nobody gets there alone. Every marathon I've ever run, every mountain I've ever climbed, everywhere I've been, it's always been somebody else who got me there. You know, I used to say, I'm going to climb this mountain, but it was a group effort. It was the people, it was my porters, it was the guy that made our breakfast, it was the guys that carried our bags, it was the people that gave us encouragement. It's a little kid that's handing you a cup of water when you're running the 25th mile of a marathon and you don't think you can go on. You meet so many great people. In Peru, you just meet people that have the same interests. So what we ended up doing was the majority of this group got along so well, we said, let's do another trip together. These people were from all over the world. One was from Switzerland. It's all scattered throughout the United States. And we all met in Italy to hike. And it was the most amazing thing because sometimes I have to beg a friend to take me to the airport. But when you virtually have some strangers say, yeah, let's meet in Italy and let's hike for a few days, is overwhelming. And, you know, I always say, do yourself a favor and buy a box of thank you cards. Because, you know, I'm here today because my parents, you know, my mother's here, my grandmother, people that got me there. Because believe me, when I was really dropping the ball and messing up, my mother never stopped believing in me. My family was always supportive. And like I said, I made so many horrible mistakes. And I would say that I probably made some major ones. You just work, you know, you just say that's the past and you move on. This was the highest mountain in the lower 48 states. I didn't even know what I was getting in for because by the time I thought this was the rough part until I asked my guide how much further. And he said, we've got 500 feet of straight climbing. And I didn't think I could do it. And I stopped for a minute, and I focused, and I said, well, how are we going to get there? How am I going to do it? You know, I'm tired, I'm thirsty, I don't think I can do this. I took it one step at a time, and I just kept remembering, I don't have to worry about the top right now. I just need to worry about that next step. And we ended up making it to the top. And when you're looking down at something like that, making if I fall, not only am I going to hurt myself, I got 3 other people that are on the same rope with me. And if I fall, I'm impacting their lives and their family. You know, it's funny because I work 3 jobs. I've got a part-time job, another part-time job, and a full-time job. But in my full-time job, I think I probably annoy 90% of my coworkers because I'm the guy that's happy to be there on Monday. I'm like, anybody can show up to be in a bad mood. I'm like, I want to be the guy that is the most positive person in the room that says things could be so much worse. We've got a great job. We've got a great opportunity. And at a sales conference for our company, our CEO came and wanted to meet me. And we share emails constantly. We share books, different ideas. And it just goes to show it is about your attitude. I dreamed one day of meeting Coach Holtz. And all I wanted to say was thanks. I didn't want to ask him questions. I didn't want to sit there and, you know, have him sign 50 autographs. I just wanted to say thanks. It took me 9 years. 9 years of people saying, oh, I can introduce you to Lou Holtz. You know, I know this person. I was his neighbor. I was, you know, so-and-so to Coach Holtz. I finally, after 9 years, said, how am I going to meet Coach Lou Holtz? And I drafted up a letter. And I said, this is what Lou Holtz has done to my life. He's made it a better life because of my list and his focus. And I'll be dang if 2 weeks after I didn't send that, I got an email saying, if you can be in East Liverpool, Ohio, June 12th, you'll get 15 minutes with Coach Holtz. And it was the most amazing thing to see that dream come true and people say it must be lucky, be you, and I'm like, what about the 9 years I spent trying to meet Coach Holtz? What about training for marathons when it was either 4 in the morning or 10:30 at night? What was it, when you travel to Spain and you're studying at night to learn a little bit of basic Spanish, so when you go there, you can at least order something to eat. And for me, it's not about what I come back with. Obviously, I want to bring something back for my mother, grandmother, brother. For myself, I've got the memories, I've got the pictures, and just some of the people that you see that have nothing. By the time I made it home after some of my trips, I'm like, I don't need 10 suits. I don't need the best of everything. I just need one thing that I like, maybe two. But to see some of these people that are still passionate about life, that would dream to be where any of us are today, it's touching. It's funny, I was in Africa and somebody was staring at me, and I was at a coffee plantation getting ready for a climb. This gentleman kept looking at me, and I thought, well, what are he staring at? I was reading a book and I was listening to music, and it dawned on me, this guy was in his 60s. He didn't really know what a Sony Walkman was. And I asked him to come over, and I put the headphones on him, and I said, this is a Sony Walkman. And he said, it's so powerful. And so I thought to myself, how many Walkmans do I have at home? 2, 3? How much music do I have? And I said, I'm going to be on a mountain for 7 days. When I come off this mountain, that's yours. That's my gift to you. I didn't know it. He had that day off work. He got there first thing in the morning, waited all day for me, saw me after I got off the mountain, and I said, a deal's a deal. I said, I'm going to send you batteries, music, and that CD player, that Sony Walkman's yours. And of all things, I said, what kind of music can I send you? He said, Kenny Rogers. Because I love Kenny Rogers. And I boxed up as much Kenny Rogers country music that I could find, sent it to him, and I still have the postcard that he left, or he sent for me. And it was worth 100 Sony Walkmans, because this person said his family could never afford something like that. And it touched me, because here was somebody that was so positive, so happy. He didn't have, everything. You see kids that have to walk through the mountains to school, have to work in the evenings. I keep thinking how easy I've got it. I also make sure either I ask people in the photos or I ask the parents if it's all right to take a picture, because I don't think it's my right to go up and start snapping pictures without asking permission. And one thing that really stuck with me, I was in Africa, and there's a tribe, they don't want to be photographed. They don't want to be Americanized. They don't want, the baseball hats. They don't want anything. They just want to be preserved. And they had told us they don't believe in having their picture taken. They said they think it takes their soul. And I couldn't believe it. I saw someone snapping photos. And I asked, what are you doing? They have a strong belief that that's taking their soul. And that person didn't care, because they probably weren't going to be back to Africa anytime soon, and they wanted to show others. And I could not believe the disrespect. Yeah, it was amazing. I'll just kind of flip through some of these. These are from various places. This is Italy. Going through some of the cathedrals and churches that have been there for hundreds of years. Just walking by people that's their ordinary day, which doesn't look too bad, especially in Italy. Went to college. Like I said, I'm not a scholar by any means. I squeaked by. I did the easy route. But one of the best things that happened to me is I got into a fraternity. It wasn't about, acting ignorant in public. They taught us basically respect, about, taking care of each other, giving back. And I'm proud to say that you know, the majority of these people in the picture, the ones that are still with us, we still email. We meet once a year. Matter of fact, one of the guys I sent an email to and said, why don't you join me in Spain? We'll run with the bulls. He showed up, traveled to Spain by himself, showed up in Pamplona, knocked on my hotel room door and said, hey, I'm here. And I just couldn't believe it. That was in Africa, and believe me, like I said, when I'm smiling, I ended up getting frostbite on my right finger, fell, hurt a shoulder. It didn't matter. It's all part of the sacrifice, and it was worth it. Plus, you know, it's a little memento. I always challenge people to say, just imagine you've got 1 year left to live, and hopefully none of us just have a year left. Who do you want to meet? Where do you want to go? What do you want to see? Who have you angered, or who's mad at you? Fix it. You know, the things I really had to learn was to say, I'm sorry, I made a mistake, what can I do to make it better? Life's too short, and you just hold this animosity inside you if you don't want to be in the same room with somebody. You know, I constantly remember, I don't know what they're feeling. You know, when that person cut me off in traffic, I don't know what happened. Maybe they lost a loved one, maybe they just lost their job, but instead of getting all irate, I just waved, because I don't know what they're feeling, and I never want to assume, you know, that person did it intentionally. Like I said, life's way too short to go around with a chip. One of the happiest moments, like I said, my mom's a saint, and to have an opportunity, she'd always talk about going to Ireland when I was a kid, and I called to say, I'm in the Dublin Marathon, and I've got 2 tickets. And I couldn't believe it, to actually see my mother in Ireland and getting a chance to watch me run the Dublin Marathon. I mean, that was, you know, when you think about the people that got you there, I mean, she most certainly is the one that got me there. You know, you see things that you don't even believe are real after a while. You know, this is actually just clouds. This isn't a black and white film. This was color film, but we were up so high, everything just kind of looked like a haze. That was one of the marathons. I was happy about this one. I made a goal to run 15 in a year. I wanted to run 2 back-to-back. I wanted to run one in Memphis, drive home to St. Louis, grab another bag, fly to, let's see, I believe that was Las Vegas, and run the next day. Not easy, but you know, you learn so much about yourself. And basically, you know, like I said, you're looking at somebody that was not a great athlete, not a great scholar, but most important thing is, like Mark said, it's your attitude, what gets you there. It's the people that get you there. So, like I said, as well as making a list of things you want to do, you know, make a list of the people that got you there and just say thanks. You know, I'll open it up for any questions you might have. And also, I've got a website. It's irunwithbulls.com, real simple. If you guys want to email me, I'll answer as many questions as I can. You know, if there's anything, don't be afraid of, is to ask for help. You know, I ask for help, and I always say, hey, I don't know. Can you show me how to do this? Oh. I'll grab something that Coach Holtz gave to me. Out of the 106 things Coach Holtz has done, I knew one of them is he didn't run with the Bulls in Spain yet. 3 years ago, I picked up some sand from Pamplona in the auditorium, actually the arena. I grabbed a pennant that said Pamplona, Spain. And so when I was meeting with Coach a week ago today, I said, he started talking about Pamplona and how he wanted to be there. And I said, Coach, I've had this for 3 years. It's sand from the stadium, a little pennant that says Pamplona. And to have the pleasure of giving that to him was amazing. And one thing that really touched me is Coach Holtz, it was supposed to be my mother and I were going to see Coach Holtz. My grandmother is not doing really well health-wise, so my mother stayed behind. And I asked Coach Holtz